Well folks, it's a massive, great big happy new year from me. I hope you all had a great Christmas, drank loads, but now it's business as usual. And have you seen the state of the day Jakey Foles has brought me out in, folks? Have you actually? It is blooming freezing, and he's made me wear a blooming hoodie. I can't even put my big coat on or anything. Joking apart though, we're at the beautiful Partridge Lakes, and I'm going to give you some little babby tips today of when this ice does eventually thaw, because it's blooming freezing, how you can sort of like approach your peg to draw fishing right up until when it gets good, folks. Yeah, so sort of like what we're saying, usually that good pellet fishing is middle of February towards the end of February. And I'm just going to be giving you some nice little babby tips on how you can get the most out of your pegs using the Preston little babby pots. Yeah, so there's loads of different sizes of the pots. I'll get them out here for you. I've got them out here. I'm all prepared and everything, folks. So we've got the little babby tiny one, which is obviously what you'd need for this time of year. Then we've got the medium one, which is when the fish start having a little bit more, and then we've got the large one when they're having it proper. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, even though it is cold, I wouldn't necessarily go to this one now, but there'll be times when, even though it's cold, the fish want that bait. So it's all about a judgment call on the day. But starting off wise, we're going to be going through the importances of how you feed in the micros, folks. Yeah, a lot of anglers, you know, they just put a pot on, put the pellets in the pot, go out, tap them in, and that's it, waiting. Which is all good and well, but we do these lids for a reason, yeah? And that's what I want to get across today. So first things first, 2mm Fin Perfect pellets. Been through this absolutely loads and loads of times, folks, and I'll prepare them. Literally, I've just put them into a tub. Let me get the tub there for you. Jake, zoom in on that. Tub there, so you can see that's a 2-pint bait tub. I filled it sort of half with them pellets, where you can see that's the actual bag there, and I've just covered them with water. Did that this morning, put a lid on, just left them, and then when I got here, sort of like half an hour, well, we've had a few brews, so maybe an hour ago, I give them a good mix round, and all there separated now. Absolutely perfect pellets, ready to go. Superb baits they are. And that, flipping it, folks, that'll do about 10 sessions for this time of year. But some days, certainly when it starts warming up a little bit, you'll need that much, and you will need more. So what we're going to do, what I've got is, I'll just get these out here first, just so you can see. I've got my little babby pots on disgorgers. I told you folks, I know I'm bloody prepared, proper prepared. So we've got the 3 small pots, and then we've got a medium pot. That's the one I'm going to talk you through last. So when it's getting good, and you need to feed a bit more bait, that's what we're going to go through. These 3 here, yeah, these are my standard pots that I'll use for sort of this time of year with different lids on. So we've got the sprinkle lid, we've got the, it's sort of like when you want to be quick. I'll talk you through in a sec. When you want to be quick, so you're just putting the pellets in, dinking it under the water, shipping straight out, and then obviously we've got the one where the fish are like really feeding, get that bait in nice and quick. First things first though, I'll talk you through the sprinkle pot lid. Now, the sprinkle pots are brilliant when you're looking to attract fish in your peg, and obviously the fish are watching your bait through the water. So pretty much conditions like this, if I was to break the ice today and make myself a nice ice hole, I'd be putting like a little babby sprinkle pot on. Now the beauty of this is once you put your pellets in, which I'm going to do, in fact let me take that lid off first and fill it up. You can do it either way. You can put them in, you know, where you've got the lid on, or what I like to do is get a few in there. Don't fill it right to the top, otherwise it won't come out. So you want to fill it sort of like 3/4. In on that, Jakey? I can't blooming see him, folks, because the sun's in my face. Yeah, so just put the lid on there like that. Now what that allows you to do is, obviously when you've shipped out to where you're fishing, tip that pot over, and we can just tap a few micros in. So there's hardly any on my hand there, you can see that. And then you can turn that pot back over again. So there's like, what, like 12 micros out there. Now, judging on when you're getting the bites, judge how often you feed this. For example, if you're getting the bites as your pellets sort of, say if you, well, whatever bait you're on, maggots or an expander pellet, when your pellets hit the bottom, if that's when you're getting the bite, that tells you the fish are watching your bait down. Yeah, so what I'd do if I wasn't getting a bite, if I got a bite, sorry, as my bait suddenly hit the bottom, missed it, sprinkle a few more in, lift your rig out, lay it in again. That is the beauty of that pot. It's a fantastic way of fishing, certainly for this time of year, like, well, now folks, really, when it's like proper cold and you just want to sprinkle a bit in. The other reason I'll use a sprinkle pot as well is obviously I'm having different swims this time of year. I might want 2, 3, 4 different swims, so obviously go in, plumb the depth, make sure you've got the same depth on all your swims, get your markers, and then what this sprinkle pot allows me to do again is I can go and feed a little bit of bait there, go to my other swim, feed a little bit of bait there, go to my next swim, feed a little bit of bait there, and then come back to the swim that I fed first. Now by the time I put my rig in there, that bait will be on or near the bottom, and I can lay my rig in, and it's just really, really versatile using the sprinkle pot. I don't use it enough really, folks, because you know what I'm like, I just love to get a load of bait in, but it really, really does make a difference, certainly when you want to attract or draw fish into your peg. So that's a sprinkle pot lid, very, very effective, that one. Next one is, you'll see this lid with a bit of a large hole in. Now what this, it's similar to the sprinkle pot. The only difference really is that you can obviously release more bait. So we'll put a bit of bait in there. Don't need to lift the lid off for this one. Yeah, so we put the bait in. You can see there, if Jakey zooms in, how quick that was to fill up. Literally, you get your pellets, hold them over the top, and they'll go in there really, really quick. Now the difference with this one is when I lift that pot over, it's going to release a lot more. I can still keep or retain a few pellets in that pot if I wanted to, but if I thought the fish were feeding a little bit more aggressive, you know, they're coming into the peg, they're staying in the peg, they're not really leaving, which will happen, you know, use this, as I say, early to mid-February, when we start getting that little bit of light, they will start wanting to eat a little bit more bait. Again, I can keep 2 or 3 swims on the go, or I could just dump them all in a wanna, yeah? But it's really, really accurate. That's the beauty of that. When I still want to maintain or keep that noise to effectively draw fish in again, that's when that pot really comes into its own. It really is effective when they start having it a little bit more. Now, moving on from that pot, now it feels as though we're going to be blooming miles away from this now, folks, where we're going to be setting traps, putting a big dumper feed, well, not a big dumper feed, but putting a dumper feed in and then just sitting and waiting for a bite. It's not going to be happening until, well, up here, up north, it's going to be like, I'm going to say end of February, something like that, end of February, early March. It's weird, you know, because it doesn't matter how cold it gets after the sort of like, that, when we get that extra hour light, the fish still want to eat, they still like them pellets, you know, they're building up, because the next thing on the agenda is going to be spawning time eventually, so they know they need to feed up. Bearing in mind, these fish haven't had a big feed up since, flipping heck, like end of September, early October. Yeah, so they're coming out of that sort of like that winter slumber, so they do want a bit of bait. That's when this pot will come in. Again, still not a big pot, still my small pot. So what we're going to do with that one is, again, nice and quick, literally just fill that up, and then what you can do is just thumb that down, nice and gentle. Or, what I do like to do as well is fill it sort of 3/4, dunk it under the water, and just ship out nice and quick. This is for, you know, when you want to be that little bit quicker, when you know there's fish in your peg, and the fish are feeding quite aggressive, that's when these pots come into play. So what we're doing when we get over there, when we get onto our marker, that just tips over, and then obviously by sneaking this in, so that just goes under the water. We don't need to, obviously, when it's the water's forcing that out, we don't need to tap it. So literally that pot goes in under the water, lift it up dead slow. Now what happens is that, obviously that, when it's dropping through, let's say we're fishing in sort of 3 foot of water, they'll sort of like expand out a little bit more, probably go to the size of like a dinner plate or a tea sauce, a teacup sauce. You know what I mean, Jakey, don't you? Cup sauce, so you know what I mean, folks, yeah? Probably go up to the size of that, and obviously you get your hook bait in there, be it an expander or whatever, corn, whatever, it's just going to spread out that little bit more. So when the fish are feeding that bit more aggressive, that's when I go into that pot. Really, really nice and quick, and it does the job. Now the next one is when the fish are proper having it and you're getting liners and you want to sort of keep the fish on the bottom, that's when you need to go to a slightly bigger pot but feed a ball of micros effectively. Now it's no good if you're fishing on the slope, so when you're fishing on the slope, put your micros in loose, and then what they'll do, then micros will grip onto the slope, yeah? When you're fishing on the slope using a ball of micros, they're going to roll away, so it's no good for that. But what it is amazing for, balls of micros, is when the fish are still in that deeper water. So we've come out of like the really freezing cold weather, getting towards the end of February, but they're still in the deeper water. This can work really, really well. I don't want to feed through a little babby pot. Reason being is, I'll show you, I'll get that little babby pot again. It's when you're making your bowl, the trouble with that bowl is it might not fit in that pot. And when you're squeezing it in, the trouble is when you go out there, yeah, get over to your marker, you're tapping that and it can drop from a bit of a height. We don't really want that. We want to sneak it in nice and low. So that is why I choose to use a medium pot. Yeah, that same size bowl will fit in there, nice and lovely. And you watch how quick this, oh, did it a bit quick then, didn't I, folks? I did it the wrong way, sorry, let me demonstrate again. So you get your little ball, yeah, let me twist it this way then, and you watch how quick that comes out. So you can do that nice and low to the water. Now, as long as you, I mean, obviously experiment with how hard you're squeezing that, but the beauty of these scrittings, the Thin Perfect 2mm micros, as long as you're giving them a bit of a squeeze, they will stay intact until they get to the bottom. But if you want them to break up a little bit more, obviously just squeeze them a bit less hard. Now, getting it into that shape consistently does make a difference as well. Now I want to show you how I do that. So I'll just get rid of them pots for the time being. Basically what I'm doing, I'll get Jakey to zoom in, is like my pointy finger, yeah? I'm using them fingers. What I'm doing, I'm coming into my pellets, so I'm using my thumb and my index finger, going into them pellets, and I'm getting them pellets into like that, yeah? The first thing I'm going to do is give them a light squeeze, and then I'm going to transfer them into my hand, and then you just need to roll them round just until you get them into that bowl shape, and then that will fit into that pot perfect every time. Now obviously, you know, experiment with that. Sometimes you might want a little bit more feed, sometimes you might want a little bit less feed, but I'd say we're quite a way off feeding through the bowls. Certainly the sprinkle pot one makes a massive difference. It just allows you to be versatile in the fact that you can have a lot of swims on the go. So if I've got the same depth in the margins that I have across, I could go in margins, feed like 2 margin swims, and then I could go across, have 2 or 3 swims over there and feed bait in them. It just allows you to sort of like be on your game all the time, I suppose, and fishing all the time, you know what I mean? Because you've always got bait in, you've always got that bait in the pot. You can just go and choose like different swims to fish in. But you know, other than that, it's all about waiting for that weather to eventually warm up, folks. Don't get me wrong though, don't let this weather put you off going out and having a go. I reckon if I broke the ice today, you know, after all that commotion had died down, we'll probably catch later on, as long as you're obviously, you know, fishing in the right areas towards cover and that. But experiment with the pot lid, certainly when it gets that little bit warmer. Yeah, do what I've said. Start with a sprinkle pot if you feel you need to draw fish in, and then go to sort of like, you know, dumping a little bit of bait in. If it's getting good and the fish are coming into your peg, but you want to keep them down on the bottom to avoid sort of like the lines and foul hookers, that's when taking the lids off and then just sneaking it in the water, just you creating that pile. It really, really is effective. I can't tell you how well it works. So go out there, give it a try, folks. As always, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and that'll tell you when we're putting little babby videos out like this. I'm off now, folks, to put another layer on and have another brew. Enjoy!